France 24's Wassim Nasr, who's been following the story closely. Hi, Wassim. You've been following this quite closely. Then give us an idea what's been happening on the ground in the last 24 hours.
Well, actually, we're going to look at a map, and it's going to get clearer when you look at the map what happened actually in the last 24 hours regarding the operations of the Syrian army and the territory that was gained actually by the Syrian army, which is in light green as we see. And yellow territory is the territory still held by the Syrian Democratic Forces. And what's important about this issue, as we see on the map, is that most of the oil field were taken back by the Syrian government. We can see that the water dams were taken back by the Syrian government, but still the camps, and we're going to talk about it, where the families and jihadis, foreign jihadis, are held, are still under Syrian Democratic Forces custody, if we may say so. And we're going to look at footage to see that also, even though there was an agreement, still turmoil happened on the ground. We know that IEDs were put in Shadadi, that we see here on the map by the YPG forces, and we're going to listen to this. And because actually this is snipers shooting on Syrian forces in Raqqa, shooting from the buildings actually, and that was actually last night. We're going to see footage now of the Tishrin dam, water dam, that was evacuated. What we're going to see on the footage is that actually YPG or Syrian Democratic Forces evacuating the dam in order, which contradicts just the footage that we saw of snipers. So here are the Kurdish-led forces leaving, implementing actually the agreement, and we're going to see footage also of the Syrian army taking control of the dam that we're talking about, the Tishrin dam. And just after this, so this is the Tishrin dam when the Syrian army got into it a few hours back, and also we're going to see footage of the Omar oil field, actually, which was handled by Kurdish forces. So here it is. All those images are really fresh. And what's interesting also is that we're going to see on some pictures that it's the same security crew that handled issues in Aleppo. We're going to see them now, meaning the head of the interior security in Aleppo, General Abdel Ghani, that we see here. They're handling issues here in Sheikh Maqsoud. Then we're going to see them in Tabqa. This is Tabqa, which was taken 24 hours ago from the Kurdish-led forces. And then we're going to see them in Raqqa city, in the town, implementing checkpoints, which tells us that it's a small security crew which handled actually the operations or stabilization after the army advancement.
And you were talking a little earlier before we came on set about the role of the Sunni clans in all of this. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Well, actually, Sunni clans played a real important role. What we saw in the pictures before, there was Abu Omar, he's the brother, actually, and I met him in Syria a few weeks back, of the person who was in charge of the clan dossier with the Syrian presidency. So we saw also that clans moved ahead of the army. We have pictures of them getting into Kurdish police, actually, station, or Syrian Democratic police station, and taking down, here's the picture of Abdullah Öcalan. Abdullah Öcalan, who's the founder of the PKK, because his pictures were all over the place in eastern Syria, in the areas held by the Syrian Democratic Forces. And we're going to see also members of the clans, of the Baggara clan, who belongs, the persons that we saw before, here in Mhamida, meaning ahead of the army. And why is it important? Because we saw the clans switching sides, because what few people know is like 80% of the recruits in the Syrian Democratic Forces, which are Kurdish-led, are Arabs. And when they saw that the Syrian army is advancing, that Damascus forces are advancing, actually they flipped sides because of the efforts that was made by the advisor on clan issues, Jihad Isa Sheikh, that we talked about a week ago.
Oh, that's very interesting. This ceasefire then that was signed yesterday, both sides already accusing each other of violations. That is not unusual shortly after a ceasefire. What did they actually sign up to? What were the terms of that ceasefire?
Well, actually, I wouldn't say it's an agreement or an accord. I would say it's a mechanism to implement what was agreed upon on the 10th of March of last year, actually. And so, because there's many things that both parties weren't accepting, but today, because of the military advancements of the Syrian army, the Kurdish side was forced to accept things that he was refusing before. For example, we talk about the borders. Like, who is gonna hold the borders? And actually, the Syrian government was gonna hold the borders. We're talking about natural resources. We saw the Omar field a few minutes ago. It's under Syrian authority now, and we know that there is specific measures for specific zones where Kurdish populations are really present, like Hasaka, like Kamishli maybe, and especially Kobani. It's a very symbolic place where the Syrian army said heavy armament is gonna be taken out, but the local administration is gonna still be handled by the Kurds. And one of the most important parts of this agreement, which weren't really noticed by many people, is that the only Kurdish administration of the Syrian Democratic Forces that's going to be integrated in the Syrian government as it is, it's actually the prisons administration. Why? Because it's in those prisons, and we're going to see footage of the Syrian army arriving at the outskirts of the Al-Hol. In those prisons, foreign fighters, either in Hasaka and their families in Al-Hol that we see here at the horizon, or at Roj, are being held there. And this was a specific demand by the US and by France, asking the Syrian government, the new Syrian authorities, to administrate those prisons with the same crews that were American and US and French and actually Westernly trained. And this is a very important part of the agreement, knowing that each and every fighter of the Syrian Democratic Forces is going to be integrated on individual basis, and he's going to be there will be very high security scrutiny, except this prisons administration, which is going to be integrated as a whole.